Yep. We're good.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's really great to have you to Wcboo Next Steps Zoom. We've gotten a lot of people who have been asking us, what can we do now? You know, we've been to a camp or we've been to a clinic, we've taken the Wcboo class. What are our next steps to move up the ranks in the women's collegiate basketball world? Or how do I get my first contract? Or how do I even just find out about officiating women's college? So we have assembled a great team for you tonight, our Wcboo education team. And hopefully you have some questions. We're going to talk a lot about professionalism and some of the things that you can control while you're off the court, since this is the off season, right? There's never truly an off season anymore in officiating. So we're here to help you. Just have a couple of commercials, because I know there are a couple of new faces that I've seen on the call. Daryl Wedge is having a little trouble getting in, Sherry, if you could just keep an eye on him. So I'm also, besides the Director of Education for Wcboo, Wcboo is many of you have heard this, the Women's Collegiate Basketball Officials Organization, also known as IBO Board 801. And we're a local board. Carl's going to talk a little bit more about that. We're a national board created by IBO to help educate and train women's collegiate basketball officials and anyone who's interested in entering into that field. So we welcome everyone and anyone who wants to officiate women's college or who's interested. I'm also the assistant chair of the IBO Women's Coordinating Committee. And part of what's going on with that committee, and I will put a link in the chat for it as soon as I stop talking, there's a scholarship application which is due July 15th for any women who would like to apply to attend the IBO Fall Conference. And many of you may have attended the IBO Fall Conference. It's an educational conference given by IBO, and I had never been to it until last October. Sherry and I had attended and made a presentation. We had been to several other educational conferences, NCAA and NASO, but this is a very unique conference, and IBO would like to offer an opportunity for women to come to the conference. To be honest with you, Sherry and I were a couple of the only women there. So really, we'd like some other people to come and have an opportunity to really learn and get ready for the season. It was really a great conference for something that I had never attended. And so if you'd like to apply, I will put the application in the chat. It's due July 15th. It's not a really difficult application. It's a Google form. Okay, it's just kind of like who you are and where you're from and what are your goals and things like that. But if you know someone who you think would be a good fit, tell them about it. You know, whether it's a mentee or a friend of yours, as long as they're an IBO member, they can apply. And the scholarship basically will cover the cost of expenses to travel to Maine. I don't know the exact dollar amount. Receipts have to be turned in, but it's really a great opportunity to get involved, maybe even learn something and bring it back to your board, right? Get up in front of all those members and you know, start using your leadership skills. So Rich and Scott, Sherry, Carl, and myself, we just completed the second ever Wcboo course. And what is that? We have some course participants. I'm not going to call you out, but there are some participants that took the course in spring 22 and fall 21. We're really proud of you. And I know some people have gotten some officiating assignments from that. But we just had 23 people roll through the course this spring. It was really awesome. Basically, we go through the rule book, we show video, we answer your questions, we meet with you live. And, you know, some people don't always get an opportunity to take a course, especially when you join a college conference or board. There's really no course for that rule book, the NCAA Women's Collegiate Rule Book. So it's kind of a fun experience to be able to have a live group to study. Some people talking about study groups in the fall, things like that. It's just an opportunity for you to learn a little bit more. And if you're interested, we'll have our next offering next September, real early next September. So we'll be in touch. Yvette wants to know, so the conference that Sherry and I went to, that one was in Connecticut. The upcoming, that's a great question, Yvette, thank you. The upcoming is in Portland, Maine. So that information will be on the scholarship application that I'm about to put into the chat. So again, tonight is all about professionalism, and we have, let's introduce Carl Small. All right, Carl is getting ready he's one of our Wcboo instructors, and he's been with my organization for a very long time, even pre-Wcboo. Carl's got some great slides, and he's ready to cue it up. I'll put that link in the chat so that you can send it to everyone that you know, all right? And the due date is July 15th. Carl, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, everyone. Can everybody hear me? Good. Good evening. Hope everyone is well. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday evening to listen to us talk about what we all have a passion for, which is officiating and women's college basketball officiating. I'm getting, oops, don't freeze on me. Did I just freeze? All right, there I go. I'm going to share my screen. There. What in the world just happened? All right, I'm guessing everybody's seeing my desktop right now, right? Why is my PowerPoint not coming up?
It's a black
Terry,
screen.
do you see my
Carl.
PowerPoint?
It's a black screen.
Yeah. Not sure my PowerPoint is not coming up. Okay, let's try this. One more again. PowerPoint. No. All right. Well then, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to see my presentation, but I will walk you through it as best as I possibly can.
Could you email it to me?
Absolutely.
Try it.
Two more seconds. Wcboo.com is good, Carrie? Carrie?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I wasn't looking at the screen, so if you're nodding, I didn't see it. I just sent it.
Okay. All right. Why don't you get started? I'll try to get it up there, Carl.
Okay. So my presentation is regarding how do I, and it's about uniforms, study groups, rule book, case book, and I actually even added one more, mentors. All right, and one of the first questions that we're always asked is, when you take your high school class and you're starting out, is where do I get gear from? One of the best things you can do is ask a rep, ask where they purchase their gear from. We all have different outlets and vendors that we use, but if you ever watched a college game, on the back of every college shirt out there is that big S, which stands for Smitty. That's the manufacturer of pretty much all the rough gear that's out there. Don't get me wrong, there are other manufacturers, but Smitty seems to be the big one. So you can Google Smitty. I believe you can order through them directly, but I'll tell you what, the internet is definitely your best friend if you can't find a ref to tell you where to order uniforms from. You go on Google, where do I get ref gear from? Or you go on Amazon. Amazon has a plethora of ref gear. And with the way the world is today, there's like a shortage of everything, but there's no shortages of ref gear. I wonder why. Probably because there's a shortage of referees. I think that might be the reason. Here we go. So if you just want to go to slide 3, because that's kind of where I'm at right now anyway. Okay, so as I was saying, the internet is your best friend. You can Google it. You go on Amazon. There's a plethora of places out there where you can order referee gear from. Unfortunately, there aren't many stores like a JCPenney's or a Macy's around where you can go try on your gear, right? Thank you, Joe. So something that I learned from officials like Joe Vasili and Rich Federer and Scott and even Sherry is get your gear tailored. You want to look like $1 million out there on the court, right? You want it to look good. You want it to fit you specifically. So go to your seamstress, your tailor, bring your gear there, and get your stuff tailored. With the changes in the referee gear lately, like the women's this year, we went to the gray, black, and that good old NCAA blue shirt, blue color with the blue color in the shirt. Make sure you have the right shirt for the right game. All right, the high school level, they're still using the black and whites. I know there are a number of boards across the country that actually use different types of shirts. So always make sure you have the right gear for the game that you're working. The last thing you want to do is if you're doing a women's college game, show up in a black and white shirt and you're the only one that has one. You better hope that your partner has an extra. As one of my coordinators say, Mike Smits, dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have. And what I mean by that is for those of you who are going to the college level, who are moving from high school to college, if you're going to a tryout camp or even an educational camp that's college-based, make the investment. Get that new college shirt so at least you look the part. All right? And probably the most important thing I could mention is always have an extra set of referee gear packed and ready to go, whether it's in your car, whether it's at your house, whether it's in your office. Just have it packed. Make sure it's accessible because you know what? You might get that phone call one day and it's the game that you wanted, the number 1 seed versus the number 2 seed. And if you tell that coordinator, oh man, I don't have my gear with me, thank you, have a nice day, and they're moving on to somebody else. All right, so make sure you always have your gear packed. Next slide. All right, so one of the next questions was, how do I, and it was in connection with the rule books and case books and study groups. For those who are just starting out reading the rule books, it's like it's learning a new language. Seriously, it is. Because when we grew up and we played, we didn't discuss basketball how officials discussed it. You know, we didn't discuss those plays how officials discussed it. If I was to go to somebody who never opened up the rule book and I said, hey, I got a play for you. A1 started their drive to the basket inside the LDB. B3 established legal guarding position in the RA and contact occurs and the official rules an offensive foul. That person would probably look at me like I was speaking in tongues and be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. All right, so it's like learning a new language and it's going to take time. And what will help you learn this new language is study groups and mentors. All right, if you're not sure how to join a study group, start your own. Find a few friends that are referees, people that you're taking the class with, and start your own. All right, I myself, I'm in like about 2 or 3 different chat groups where we send plays, we send casebook scenarios, we make up these crazy scenarios, and you know we kind of try to stump each other. But it basically comes down to the rule book. Also, I saw Stephanie Barksdale jumped on. Hi, Steph. She is part of one of the best study groups that I've ever been part of, the Northeast Study Group. Steph, if you wouldn't mind, when you have a chance, if you can put up contact information so people could maybe reach out so that they can join that study group. And then also, if you wanted to, you can download the rule book for free. All right, you don't have to buy it. You don't have to purchase it. You go to NCAA Publications. Rich and Jim just put the link in the chat. You go in there, you click on rule books, you go to the women's rules and case books, You can download it as a PDF. You can download it for your Apple device. You can download it. I literally have a downloaded rule book on every single device I have, whether it's my laptop, my phone, my tablet, my computer at work even has the rule book. All right, so you can download it for free. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, I download it and I bring it to Staples and I have them do this with it. I have them blow it up, bind it, and now I have an extra big copy of the rule book where I can write in it, I can highlight it, I can do all that. Now, some others have asked, how do you study the rules, right? You would think, those who are new, you would think you would start with rule 1. No. We start with rule 4. The man, the myth, the legend, John Levinson, who's a friend of Wcboo, he actually gave us an awesome little study guide to go through. We did drop that in the chat earlier. If you scroll up to the top of the chat, he gave us a little guideline on how to study the rule book. And I'm just going to go through it really quick. But again, there's a PDF in the chat that you can click on. You can download it. You can save it. And it's just a guideline on how to go over the rules. His suggestion is start with rule 4, definitions. Then move on to rule 6, live ball, dead ball. Then rule 7, throw-ins. Then rule 10, which is fouls and penalties. Rule 9, violations and penalties. Rule 8, free throw administration. Rule 5, scoring and timing. Rule 1, court and equipment. And then last but not least, rule 11, instant replay. Now, I actually just noticed he left out rule 2. I'm not sure why, but you definitely need to read that rule because there's a very, very important aspect in that rule called correctable errors that you need to know, and you don't want to have any of those in your game. There you go. And next slide, Kerry. And this will be actually our last one. So can you click on it one more time, Kerry? How do I? Collegiate level boards. Just a slide should come up.
Can you not see that?
I see it, but the Wcboo logo didn't come in. If you click on it on the slide itself. Well, we are Wcboo. There it is. The Women's Collegiate Basketball Officials Association, organization, I'm sorry. We are, I believe, one of a kind. I don't think there's any other women's collegiate boards out there like us. IABO Board 108. There's our website information, womensbasketballofficiating.com. If you have any questions, you can email us at info@wcboo.com, and definitely friend us on Facebook, Wcboo for Life, and follow us on Instagram. If you'd like to become a member, don't do it now, and the site will be up soon the site is up, but to become a member, it'll be up soon. It's a $60 fee for the year. It includes college level insurance and a whole lot of educational material, extra educational material that you would receive from Wcboo. Anything else you want me to add to that, Kerry?
No, Carl. Well, I have some questions to throw out there. Make sure that we're covering all the questions that we had.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Thank you, Carl.
My pleasure.
Let me just put that PDF in one more time so that everybody has it. Here we go. This is Study Smart with John Levinson. So I spoke a little bit about how Board 801 operates. This is a membership board. I get a lot of questions like, what are the requirements to join this board? What's required is that you have an interest in women's collegiate basketball officiating. You pay your dues, you become a member. There are no required meetings. We do a lot of talking, we do a lot of learning, we do a lot of spending time together, sharing ideas. But those are the requirements. This is a voluntary board. It doesn't conflict with your local high school board. We don't want you to stop being a member or quit your local board. This is in addition to most of you, your local board is your primary board. Wcboo Board 801 would be your secondary IBO board. I think we're going to cover the question of logistics and expectations as we move through. So if anybody, Jim, we have any questions happening?
Oh, at the moment, we're all good, Gary. Nothing else has popped in the chat.
Okay, so I'm going to throw it out to our staff, Rich, Sherry, Scott, and I believe Stephanie's on the call. If you have any points that you'd like to share.
I can bring up one thing that I know Carl touched on there, but the importance of having a study group and an element of networking amongst your officiating community. I think the more, friends that you can make in terms of developing different opinions on things, the better that is. You don't want to keep yourself in a silo in this business. There's enough people that, resent officials as it is. So this is a safe community where you can collaborate with others, and it's really grown. I mean, from the early days of when Joe and Stephanie started the study group, it was like 30 or 40 people getting together, and now it's into hundreds. And it's not just the Northeast, but inviting other study groups. So I can't stress the importance of having a place like a study group to be able to speak freely and feel comfortable about different ideas.
Rich, I mean, study group, it seems like a few years ago, that was a new concept. And I think you touched upon the point of the comfortability of a place to be comfortable. Why is it so important to know the rules as well as you would from a study group? Like what's the difference? I mean, it seems like a simple question, but why can't I just read my rule book and figure it out that way? Like why is the study group so important and seems to be, the thing to have now, to be a part of?
I guess I could touch on this, Rich, if you don't mind. So, having a study group is also, part of building trust and communication with other people, and having that confidence, as we move forward to be comfortable sharing plays and sharing thoughts and sharing, ideas. So many times that, and I'm guilty of it myself, we read things and we kind of just read the rule book to read the rule book. It's August, September, we got to get ready for the season. So, we sit in the backyard and we read the rule book for an hour, which is fine, which is all fine and good. But reading the rule book and applying what we actually read onto the court is a totally different thing. And I think that when you join study groups, when we share experiences from one another, and I had a play, or this happened to me with a coach, and this is how we handled it. At least I know for me on a personal level, it speaks volumes on, just being able to communicate with other people and learn from their experiences. I don't think that we should get away from reading the rule book, but I think that I know, Rich and Joe and Carl and Sherry and everybody here who's a part of a study group, whether it be a larger study group or a smaller study group. I think that the biggest thing everybody takes from it is just sharing experiences and how they deal with certain situations. And, I may read a rule one way and Joe might read it the other way and Rich may read it somewhere, and we just have that conversation, and it kind of just opens up, just like an open forum to everybody. And I think that even people who are joining a study group for the first time and just sit in, as it goes on, they'll have, things to add. And that's just, a great way to learn. This is, a business of being people, being a people person and also being a good communicator. And, you see the press and you see all the news now. It's, you don't want to say it's us against the world as officials, but we are our own little segment of the world. And, we have our partners and our supervisor, and that's really the only people who are going to be on our team that night. So I think that just building that rapport with people in a study group and like Rich said, not, keeping ourselves in a silo and being open to other ideas and, people's opinions and people's thoughts, it really helps you actually transition into the season a lot better than just isolating yourself and saying, I'm going to study the rule book and read the rule book and memorize everything. I think just that open forum really, really helps me. And I'm sure it'll help a lot of other people. And I think anybody can speak on that, or any of the staff members or anybody here is on the call that's in a study group.
Just to piggyback on what Scott's talking about is we can all read the same rule, but we may interpret it different. And so, because I know it's happened before. So when we all get together and I may say, no, but this is how it reads. And then Joe will get on and go, no, Sherry, this is what it means. And then the light bulb goes on and go, oh yeah, I didn't see it in that light. So to what Scott's saying is absolutely, 5 people read the rule book, it's going to be 5 different interpretations. So you really all need to get together so that we can all be on the same page when we walk on that court together with each game. So it's super important that you do that, and that you don't try to learn that rule book on your own, because you can't. I mean, I've read it probably 26 times and I always pick up something new that I missed last year. Yeah, it's super important. And remember, it is a novel. It is not a short story. It takes time. You don't want to read it, try to read it all in one day. You want to read 1 rule a day and then maybe 5 plays or that section of the case book with it, so that it all makes sense together. So just my 2 cents about the rule book.
Thank you, Sherry.
Sure.
It looks like the Northeast Study Group email has been posted. All right, northeaststudygroup@gmail.com. This is a very intense, very awesome study group. It was a very small study group, and it has grown in leaps and bounds. And once everybody, it used to be a conference call. I think there were like Tuesday night conference calls, and you would have, you'd get an email with a link for a video, and we would be watching the videos while someone like Debbie Williamson was talking on the conference call, and she would say, okay, press play now, right? And we would all press play on our own computers. And then the pandemic hit, and so Zoom appeared, and it became this TV show, right? Like what we're doing right now. And so the Northeast Study Group really really grew. And it starts in August, September. So late August, early September. Is there a board rules interpreter? Sherry, you want to answer that question? You're muted.
Yeah. So yes, each board has its own interpreter. So I know just from my state, there
Well, more
are,
like the Wcboo.
oh, the
board.
Wcboo. Yeah, I am the interpreter for
You're
Wcboo.
looking at it.
And then there's Carl, Rich, Scott. We lean on Jimmy, Al, Joe, Carrie. So there's a whole bunch of us that are the interpreters. Yes.
Yeah, but Sherry, like what, as an interpreter, what can anyone do? Can they contact you, like if they have a question over the summer? Or?
Absolutely. I guess I should put my, yes, you can email me for questions. I do that throughout the year. I will answer any questions that you have, by all means. Yeah.
Is it szapinterp@gmail.com?
Yes. Thanks, Karen.
Sherry's even being a little modest. Not only is she our interpreter, she's the New York State interpreter for high school girls basketball.
Which we
Just
use,
want to put that there.
yeah, we use the NCAA rules in New York State. So it actually kind of works out nicely for us. And Carl's my assistant. So there.
We work well together.
All right, Sherry, thank you for that update. And again, szapinterp, whoops, I didn't type that right. Sorry, SCAPINTERP@gmail. All right, Sherry loves questions. I send her questions all the time when I don't understand them or have time to look them up, and she always gets the answer right. Also, Al Batista is on the call. Al can also answer any questions that you have rules wise. Can't see the link for the study guide. So the study guide was an attachment. Is there anyone else having a problem with the study guide? I'm gonna attach it to, I'm just gonna reattach it to everyone. All right, let's move on to Stephanie Barksdale. So Stephanie Barksdale, I've known for a very, very long time, and we have our own personal meeting story, which she remembers better than me. It's been so long, but I know that she answered the question right. You know, what do you want out of, you know, your basketball officiating career? And she said, anything that you want me to do, I am willing to do. And so here she is, of course, doing what I'm asking her to do once again. I really appreciate Stephanie's time, because she, like everyone else on the team, is sometimes a little busy, and I'm happy to have her. Stephanie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First and foremost, shout out to all the other instructional members of the team and everyone who's present. I know it's a Tuesday evening. It's sunny still here. I'm down in Texas right now, but there are a number of other things that you could be choosing to do. But the fact that you're on right now, investing in your officiating career, speaks volumes. And that's honestly how you continue to grow. You just continue to invest, invest, invest. I met Carrie at the very, very beginning of my high school career at the High School of Construction. She probably doesn't remember this, but I do. I was at a tryout camp, and I just remember this lady standing at the front of the classroom who was so poised and had so much information that I wrote down her name and her number, and I actually followed up. Yeah. And when I followed up, she was really gracious enough to give me some feedback and some pointers and various different things that I should think about and do. And I then followed that information. And I'm saying all of these things for a reason, with special emphasis, because I really want everyone on this call to stay curious, keep asking questions, keep reaching out. But then not only once you reach out, you gotta follow through. There's this funny saying that my best friend often tells me, and she says, Stephanie, don't be an ask hole. And what that means is don't ask questions and then not actually follow up and utilize the information. So Carrie did a great job of pointing me in the right direction. And for many of the faces on this call, they've also helped me along every step of the way, whether it be I'm looking at Jim in a G League game, or maybe it me being Rich and Scott starting out at camp and A10 with Marie and Sherry. I'm thinking and Carl and Al and just all of these faces, and even and Dave, having an experience working with him with the USA basketball team. So you cross paths with so many people that you're honestly always learning. And then last but not least, it's really just Joe, who's always so humble and willing to give. And it's just really sparked a fire under me, because when we first started the Northeast Study Group, Joe knows this, it was really the idea of Benita Spence, who's no longer here with us today, but she just really, I think, continued to harp on us that we had to study. You gotta study, you gotta practice, and you can't do all of this stuff in your head. So as Sherry mentioned, the rule book is not this fancy, unfortunately, love story. It's really dry. So you gotta get with others who understand the information and really dive in and have discussions. But aside from all that, you gotta ask questions. Some of this stuff may or may not make sense. And if you don't get it, someone else will. So when you join some of these study groups, please, 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 I really encourage you, come off mute, ask questions. There's no question that can be too big or too small. I had a referee call me this morning, and she was asking me about pants. And anybody who knows me knows that I went through so many referee pants to try to find the pants that fit me. And so I just want to encourage you that you'll meet various different obstacles that seem like, oh my gosh, why is this a headache? It shouldn't be a headache, but it's unique. You got to give yourself a little bit of grace and know that, you know, none of us, let me speak for myself. I am not where I would like to be, but I know I have other people around me who are doing excellent work, and I can lean on them night in and night out. And so I just want to be really honest and public about my appreciation for Carrie, because she's always given me space to continue to learn and grow. And so when we get on these calls, don't be hesitant to come off mute and ask any one of those of us who are on here if you have a question, whatever it may be: shoes, apparel, professionalism, emails. It all needs to be answered. And if you're trying to answer those questions in your head, you're doing yourself a disservice. So I'll stop speaking, but I really appreciate seeing everybody's faces. This is where you get better. You take the information that you get from the court, and then you come back to safe spaces like this, and you talk about it. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank you. And, I don't know, Carl, I don't remember if you mentioned a supplier for uniforms, but IBO always sends out emails with various suppliers that they use. I mean, there are a lot of—
Joe put something up.
Yeah, there's a lot of different places you can get them from. I'm not here to endorse anybody, but I know Smitty is the IBO official supplier. Stephanie, thanks so much. I do remember high school construction. I certainly do. Okay, Al, we have about 3 minutes. Do you have anything to share with us tonight?
Yeah, for everybody on the call, if you're new to Wcboo, this is a great group in IBO, and IBO is really proud of this group, because this group really works hard and helps officials at the women's collegiate level. And Carrie and Sherry have done a phenomenal job with this group, outstanding. And I think you'll really enjoy the Zoom calls during the season. But with anything in officiating, you want to start getting in a routine with the rule book and the case book. And I just want to touch one thing on the rule book. I do something every day with 5 rule books. And you want to start, when you start it, I call it not reading the rule book. I call it attacking the rule book. And you want to start doing things like I'll do little things. I'll make charts like who's the shooter, penalties. You could do all types of things. I also do a lot of match column 1 with match column 2. And then you start, what this does is it helps your officiating, your basketball officiating IQ. The rules become fun, and you'll start to learn how to navigate the rule book. And that is just so important. So thank you, Carrie, and thank you for what you've done. This is just super. Thank you.
Al, it's great to have you, and it's great to have this education team. We're going to hand it off to our last guest in a moment. Does anybody have any questions? You can speak up or put it in the chat before we move forward. Take a minute to think about, is there anything you want us to answer tonight?
Remember what Stephanie said, come off of mute.
Yeah, anything.
Don't be shy.
Please, I know their contracts are getting ready to go out. We're getting ready for camps. I know I've had a couple conversations with the differences between teaching camps versus instructional camps, evaluation camps versus teaching camps. So there are all these things that I think behind the scenes, we want to know the answers. Well, I promise you, if you have a question, somebody else has that same question. So please don't be afraid to ask.
So I have a quick question. This is Becky.
Hey, Becky.
So I just got back from a college camp where I would like to say thanks, guys. Thanks to you guys, I got hired. So one thing that I had a question about when I was there at camp was a lot of people would reference the CCT manual. Can you guys give kind of a little background of what that is and where people can find that? Because I think that's an important piece that's left out a lot.
Did she say the CCA manual?
Yeah.
CCA, Becky?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, the CCA manual, you can get it from a variety of sources. They have an app, I think you can download it. You can also purchase it. And you might be able to purchase it through Referee Magazine or right or through. I know you can get it through Referee Magazine. There is an app you can download, and I think you can get it on the app. So it's not a hard copy version, but you'd have a downloadable version somewhere on the app. I know I have the app on my phone and on my iPad. So, but if you Google CCA manual, you probably can, as Carl said, you could probably find it and purchase it somewhere if you needed to. So what the CCA manual is, Becky, is our mechanics essentially. And as Al alluded to with the rule book, the CCA manual goes hand in hand. In fact, Penny and I, on Friday at a camp that I was at in Maryland, we're this whole weekend, and I had the pleasure of sitting with Al on a good part of Sunday, fundamentals of officiating. And, we get our fundamentals from the CCA manual, of our mechanics and what we're supposed to do in situations. And it's a vital part of what we do, because without our mechanics, nobody will know what the heck we're doing out there. And so mechanics tell a story when we blow our whistle, whether it's an open fist or a closed fist. So knowing what's in that book, but in the beginning of the book is what's known as our philosophy of officiating, which essentially gets into what is a foul and what is not a foul, what incidental contact is, and what defines what illegal contact is. And illegal contact is defined as when rhythm, speed, balance, and quickness, or RSBQ, are affected, the contact is illegal. Okay, and that's the beauty of what we do night in and night out, is that's going to look different. And so it's not like it's going to look the same every night, because two teams that play a certain way, that illegal contact, it may be illegal contact one night, and on the next night, that same contact may not be, because the player's rhythm, speed, balance, quickness is not affected. And again, that's why I love to officiate 20 some odd years into my officiating career. So having that manual in your hand will really help you. And as you study the rule book and as you figure out the best way you want to attack, I love that word, attack the rule book and the case book that goes along with it. Know that you also have that mechanics manual that you should be studying and attacking as well. And be aware of kind of the new stuff that'll be coming out probably from the mechanics committee at some point this summer, whatever our new mechanics are. So.
And I think the app, Joe, I think you have to be part of Arbiter to get the app. I'm not 100% sure. Okay. I might be wrong. But yeah, like Joe said, it might change.
Carl, sorry. I put the most recent link for from Referee Magazine, the referee store.
Yeah.
It's good to get over the summer, even if they come out with a new one. It's only $16, so it's worth, like Joe said, for the philosophy point. Just, since Becky asked that question, I don't want to embarrass her, but I will. But Becky Graham took the Wcboo course twice. And when she signed up for it this spring, she took it in fall 21, and she signed up for it this spring. I contacted her because I wanted to make sure that she didn't make a mistake. Like, why would you want to take this class twice? Because it's not free, right? I mean, the staff has to get paid, and we have to pay IVO for it. And she said that she's going to camp and she just wants to be as prepared as possible. And, I never would have thought that someone could take a class like this right before camp, and she is proof that the hard work that you put in is what you get out. That is awesome. Okay, here's a question for our staff. How in depth should I know the college rule book and mechanics before attending a college camp?
It's an ongoing learning experience. I mean, I'm in 11 years, and I mean, it's like it was said earlier. It's sometimes you read a rule and you can read a rule, like Sherry said earlier, you can read a rule 28 times, and every time you're going to get something new. But there's no way you can read it and absorb it and understand it right before you go to a college camp. So as Al said earlier, or Sherry said earlier, read a rule, read 5 casebook scenarios. Read a rule, read 5 casebook scenarios. If you do that every day, you're going to learn, you're going to grow, and you're going to improve your rules knowledge.
But so what do we do with the official who they finish season 1 or 2 at the high school level, and someone says, hey, you know, you should go to a college tryout. I think that's part of this question. Like, when do you know that you have enough knowledge? Do you have enough? Is it worth going to a camp without having built a library of rules knowledge, like rules knowledge? So when do you decide is the right time for you? Is that an easy question, or?
Kerry, I'm going to jump in here on this one for just a second. This is where it's really important to start developing that mentor-mentee relationship and have somebody that you can trust, that knows you and knows your ability and knows your aspirations and really what your ceiling is. There are a lot of camps out there that are teaching camps. And if you're somebody that doesn't really have a great grasp of three-person mechanics or the NCAA women's rules or whatever it might be in your particular case, that's great. And that's, you know what, I'm going to show up because I want to learn. That's wonderful. But if you're going to waste, I don't want to say waste, but if you're going to invest, keep positive language here, invest in a camp that is a tryout camp, a staff development camp, you really want to make sure that you're not at a point where you're just going to stand out for not knowing things that everybody else there knows. And that's where sometimes you have to have those hard conversations with partners, with mentors, with assigners. And let's be very clear, officiating has become a business. There is a dollar value attached to everything that we do and everything that a coordinator does. And it's really incumbent upon each one of us to do what's right for us at that moment. And maybe where we are today isn't where we want to be in 3 years. Well, there are going to be steps along the way. It's not a matter of saying, well, you know what, I want to referee in the Big East. So tomorrow I'm going to the Big East tryout camp. You know what, there are a few spots you probably need to be ahead of time. And that's really important to look at yourself in the mirror and to be honest. Are you able to work at the level that you would like to? And if you're not, all right, great. What do I need to do to get there? And I think, you know, there are other folks on this call far more experienced and have gotten way higher than I did when I was on the court that can probably speak to that. But it's really important to know what it is that you're trying to do. There's never a question that should be left unasked. You know, Stephanie's right about that. But you also want to know there are certain forums where those questions are probably not going to be appreciated. So if you need to ask that question, make sure it's in a forum and a space that's going to be safe and appropriate for you to ask that question.
It's hard to decide when is the right time, but I think one of the things that you could take away from this conversation is you can never go wrong with an education camp. So if you're going to an education camp and there just happens to be a coordinator at that camp, it's a win-win. I never went to any camp without the goal of getting better. It was never to get hired in a specific conference. That would be a sidebar, a caveat to the hard work that I put in that particular summer. But you have to go with the attitude of, I'm here to learn, I'm here to get better. Jim mentioned business, he mentioned the money, and that is certainly a big part of it. It's almost the whole part of it. But at the same time, if your attitude is, I got to get in there now because I got to break in and start making this money now, you're not gonna get what you need. You're not gonna get in as easily as you think. So if you can find a camp, and thank you, Yvette, I forgot about Philly Ref. I put the link in the chat, direct link. If you can find an educational situation, an educational camp, offering clinic, whatever it is, go to it as much as you can, go to it multiple times, because someone will notice. We know that the coordinators talk, maybe they can't hire you because you're not in the right geographic area or whatever it is. So education, you know, err on the side of education when it comes to going to camp. Great questions. Anyone else before we send it
Carrie?
off to our last guest?
Yeah, Carrie, I have a quick question. This was brought to my attention. I was talking to a relatively new official they've gone to camp. The next steps. When will I hear if I got hired? Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, I gave them my perspective, but I think you have a board that can speak to getting that call, getting an email, when to expect it, and then what to do if you don't get hired. What does that mean?
Okay, thanks a lot, Raleigh. You
I-
know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pass that off. Scott, looks like you want to take it. I was gonna hand it to Joe, but I'll go to
Go,
Scott first.
Joe, go ahead. Joe, go ahead. Take it, Joe.
I mean, Raleigh, it's a great question. And, coming out of a weekend where I just probably watched 150 referees this past weekend over the course of 3 days, I think every assigner is different, but I'm going to work top down. So Division I, generally hiring decisions are made sometime in the first 2 weeks of August. So, or possibly late July, but mostly in the first 2 weeks of August. I think Division II and Division III coordinators have a little bit more flexibility in kind of when they send out their hiring notices. It could be as early as the next day after a camp to kind of same time frame by early to mid-August. So I think that's one way to know, whether or not if it gets to middle August and you don't have a contract, you're probably not getting one. But also, at Raleigh, as you know, there's what's called the referee grapevine. And so somebody knows somebody that knows somebody that probably knows of when, contracts and notifications are sent out via the grapevine. So I think if you're a younger official going to a camp for the first time, if there's somebody that there, or you have a mentor that went to that camp, I think it's a fair question for you to reach out to and just say, hey, if and when the time comes that I may get a contract, when would that time frame be? So, but it varies, honestly. I mean, between now and next week until the middle of August. So does that help, Raleigh?
I would just say, I would venture to say even Division II and III are going to get them out earlier because they're now tied into the NC2A, the notifications and the, not the camps, the videos, everything we have to watch. So, but I know that other person's on the call and a few others. So I thought hearing somebody else different than me would be a better.
We are moving to a new website. The NCAA is moving to a new website that's going to house everything next year. We're moving off Arbiter. So we're moving to RefQuest Plus, I believe, as the new assigning platform and teaching and education platform for the NCAA. So that migration is still happening. So things may be a little bit slower this year in terms of kind of how it gets started. But I would think, Penny has said in an email to, kind of officials that are on Arbiter now, at some point in July, we'll at least get a notification as to when it's going to go live. So.
Thank you, Joe. Joe, we've got 5 minutes left. I was gonna give you 20.
Yeah, I'll make it. I'll be fast. I was going to start actually just with camp, we're in the middle of, I'd say we're in the first third of camp season. And just kind of impressions from this past weekend. I think there's so much to be learned and gained from going to, both. And a lot of camps now are combo camps. They're not just, they're hiring camps, but there is education that comes along with these assigning camps, with the classroom work that can happen now on Zoom. I'm going to be down in Atlanta next week where we're going to have 6 different topics of classroom work for each of the 3 sessions that are going to take place. So even evaluation camps, as we used to call it. And I was looking at Fran earlier and just thinking about the first camp that I went to back in '97, and Carrie and I went to one in 1999. It's a lot different today than it was 25 years ago. But there is still an education piece to these evaluation camps. I mean, sure, you don't want to go to a Division I camp and not knowing our mechanics and not knowing the rule book. I mean, it's just, if you're a younger official, if you're going to go to a Division I camp where there's going to be education and evaluation, you've got to know the basic mechanics and know our rules pretty well. While we play a little bit of modified rules in the summer when it comes to the camp rules, you've got to know our mechanics. And that's where, having that manual in your hand is really important. And that's where, as a younger official, you really want to focus on those education camps where you can really learn and grow. But the things that you can learn as a camper or as an attendee, just sitting around and absorbing, post-game conferences, just Al and I, like I said, I had the pleasure of sitting with Al for 2 hours on Sunday morning, and just the conversation that we had back and forth that we were able to share with some of the attendees to the camp is just, it's not only invaluable to the campers and the attendees, it's invaluable for us because we learn just from embracing and engaging in the conversation. There's no better way to learn than just talking rules and talking plays and talking situations and just, being on a court and watching and observing. It's just invaluable. So regardless of the camp that you go to, get as much out of it as you can, because, you've got this opportunity to kind of just sit back and engage in huddles, at halftime, and engage in post games, listen in on post games. There's so much to be learned in these opportunities. So I encourage you, any camps that you still have left to go to, just be a sponge. Just be a sponge and listen and listen and listen and learn, because there's going to be things that you learn for your toolbox, your officiating toolbox, because it's the larger your officiating toolbox gets, the more able you are to handle situations, because there's going to be situations that happen in your games. They happen in the summer, they happen during the season, they happen in the postseason. And so the more you have in that toolbox to be prepared and ready for it. And a lot of the things, this weekend, I noticed a bunch of things, that happened, and every response was, well, it's just camp. And I just figured that we didn't have to do that. And so, no, treat camp games, whereas the rules may be modified because of the directors who set the camp rules. Don't disregard what you would do during the regular season, whether it's an end of game situation, an half situation, it's a clock situation, whatever, an intentional foul or technical foul. Do exactly what you would do during the regular season. Penalize bad behavior exactly as you would in the regular season. And so these are opportunities for you to kind of set yourself apart when they happen in camp. And honestly, you want these things to happen in camp because they will prepare you for what comes in November, December, January, February, March, and hopefully April. So that's my little bit on camp. And so I'll just kind of touch on a few things in terms of professionalism and preparation. The reality is the game has changed and officiating has changed. The business, and we've used that word over and over tonight, but officiating is a business. For most of us, it's an avocation. For some of us, it's a vocation, and some of you may be aspiring for it to be a vocation, but you have to treat it like a business. And you have to run it like it's your own personal business. And so you've got to manage up and you've got to manage down. And as you aspire to the higher levels within college, there are a lot of demands that are put on you before you even throw the ball up on November 8th is opening day this year. Before we even throw the ball up on November 8th, there's a lot of responsibilities. And those who set themselves apart for the off the floor, handling your business, taking care of your close dates, reading your contracts, and doing exactly what each coordinator asks for, because each one asks for slightly different things. And so your ability to follow directions and do what's asked of you is someone that a coordinator wants to work with at the end of the day. Whether it's pick up the phone and call you on January 12th when there's snow in 8 states and you show open, and a coordinator calls you and says, are you show open on January 12th and I need you really badly at Morgan State? And you say, yeah, I'm ready to go. And that might be your opportunity. You just never know, because there is weather that happens in the Northeast and throughout the country, and you just never know when that opportunity is going to come. And so I just urge you, as you aspire to college officiating, if you're not there yet, taking care of your business. And we usually start our study group in the fall with kind of a organize your way to success presentation. But it's so key, those first 2 months of the season, you're going to get between mid-August and mid-September just so much stuff thrown at you and you're like, oh my God, how do I handle all these things? Well, you just take a deep breath and you read it and you read it again. And if something doesn't make sense in a contract and a notification and an email from a coordinator, you just call someone. Call me. I don't care if you call me. Just don't call me between 12 and 6 because I'm usually sleeping. But call me and ask me, because there's no question that can't be answered. And so it's so vital for us to be able to take care of a business, because as one coordinator said to me, if I can't trust you off the floor with your off the floor business, like paperwork and closed dates and everything, how can I trust you to go out and get that block charge play right with 15 seconds to go in the conference championship game, you know? So, and that's just before we even take the floor. So, you know, that to me, that's where professionalism and preparation is so key to get ourselves before we even get on the floor. So be detail oriented, make it easy for coordinators to work with you. And then just, you know, control what you can control. There's so many things that we control. There's a lot of things outside of our control. Game assignments are out of our control. The number of games you get, it's out of our hands. You know, those aren't the decisions that we get to make. But there are plenty of things that are within our control. Reading the rule book, reading the manual, studying, attacking the rule book and the case book, and doing all those things before we even get to study group in September. You know, doing all those things, those preparatory things, fitness and preparation during the summer. You know, I don't take a day off from exercise and fitness and taking care of my body, because student athletes will always be 18 to 22 years old, and I won't. None of us will. And so the game has changed. Just look at the athletic facilities that we were at a community college on Saturday and Sunday. This facility was nicer than many Division I colleges in the Northeast. These student athletes have access to the finest of finest and the best of facilities throughout the country. So they're ready to play when November 8th comes. And so we need to be ready way before that. And so this is a 12-month avocation and vocation for everyone. And so when you go to camp in the summer, you know, just be mindful of that when you're preparing to get ready for camp, because someone's always watching you and you never know. There's, like I said, there's always somebody watching you, and you just might have a look, you might have a feel, you might have mechanics that somebody likes that just says, I really want to hire this person to work my X, whatever it is. And so you just never know. And so the spotlight's always on us. And so, you know, social media and all that other stuff, you know, we've got regulations at the Division I level, but again, just be mindful of kind of what you're posting and what kind of attention you're drawing to yourself. You know, they can't quote your silence, Eric Bruton said to me a long time ago, and it's so true. So, and as officials, you know, Stephanie, I'm going to give Stephanie some kudos, because we as the Northeast Study Group would not have been able to make the pivot to Zoom and the chat rooms and the Zoom rooms and all that stuff that we use without her knowledge. And so she's very humble as well. And, you know, as she mentioned, Benita, I know, is up in heaven and is very proud of what the Northeast Study Group has been able to do in these last 9 years, which is hard to believe. But what she's been able, what Stephanie has really been able to do in helping us both with teaching and education and the Zoom background and all the other stuff. It's just, you know, you talk about a team and a crew chemistry. The Northeast Study Group has a lot of crew chemistry, and this camp I was at this weekend, we had a lot of crew chemistry, and it makes for just great time, great education, and just great teamwork. And that's what officiating is all about. It's not one, it's three. And so it's game, to me, it's game, crew, and then myself. And because the game is about the student athletes, it's not about us. And then it's about the crew just being out there, working hard, working together, communicating, and just supporting one another. You know, we're getting attacked by the media, by fans and parents at all levels, and it's making national news finally. And you know, I know it's going to be a topic at the national conference in August. But if we're taking each other out as well in this business, it's not good. And so support one another. We got to stop taking each other's legs out, because we're the only ones supporting each other right now. And so find your network and find your group of referees in your network and someone may get a game assignment over you, or playoff assignment over you, clap your hands and say, congrats, well done, you deserve it. And you just know that if you work hard, you put yourself in that position, that opportunity may or may not come. And because it's limited when you get into playoffs and NCAA tournaments and all that, there's only a certain amount of spots. But whatever opportunities you get, make the most of it and do your best. And if you leave it all out on the floor night in and night out, people are going to recognize it, and opportunities will come your way. So I'll kind of stop there, Carrie, if anybody has any questions out there. So.
Okay, Joe, thank you as always. Anyone have any last questions? We are after 9 o'clock. You know, I think what Joe is saying, the local study groups, a lot of people ask me, you know, how can I find a mentor? Can you be my mentor? I cannot be everyone's mentor. And we've had this conversation in the education team. So, you know, one of the things that you can do is talk to your local people. Is there anyone else that's interested in joining Wcboo with you? Anyone that's interested in becoming a women's collegiate basketball, and just link with that person. It doesn't have to be a D1 television official. It can just be another person who has a similar interest with you. And, you know, join us, send them on the Zoom, let them interact with us. And that's how you meet people and find people. You know, I would have never have thought 2 years ago that there would be a national IBO women's collegiate board. I would have said, absolutely not. That is not even on the radar. It's not going to happen. And we are full steam ahead. We're going to be bigger and better next year. We're going to take a summer hiatus. I know you'll be very disappointed. You won't have to go on to Zoom for 2 more months. But we're in the middle of refreshing the website. My apologies, it's not ready for tonight's call. So when it's time to renew, I will send out the email blast so that you can renew. We're going to get it out there as soon as possible. You know, tell somebody to come on to a call, tell somebody to join, tell somebody to fill out that scholarship application. IBO is going to give you money to attend the conference, so there's no reason not to fill out the Google form. It'll take you about 3 minutes, or someone else that you know. Okay, so I see a lot of thank yous in the chat. I'd like to thank the Wcboo education team for a job well done this year. We decided to change. Where can we get the Wcboo gear? Dessa, just hold on. You're giving me a lot of work here, okay? I've been thinking about it. It's gonna happen. You know, it's just not gonna happen tonight. It's great. Thank you to everyone that came on the call tonight, and especially to those that took Wcboo U. You took a chance, and we really appreciate you. We'll be back in touch. Have a great summer. Thanks to the team. You're really working hard. I appreciate every single one of you. Have a great night.
Night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.